Guetta heard it, loved it. And so I meet Guetta and they had so the a cappella, the way everyone hears it, my voice, it's how we had it. So it's literally nothing got changed.
Amazing.
The only thing that ever changed was always just the production. And I was like, sis, and she's like, what is that? I said, okay, you don't even know. I said, all I'm going to say is, bitch, I'm going to be rich or I cut the vocals. People always think, oh, it's so sexy. I'm like, no, I literally was smelling his shoes. There's so much of that happens. And I just think I'm at a place in my life, not just with music, like just with everything, but especially because I'm my career is like everything, but I just don't care anymore. I'm very grateful for because the EDM community extremely loyal. They're very loyal and loving and they're intense. They love their EDM.
Welcome to On The Record, where we peel back the layers of a release with the creative mastermind behind it. Today, I'm in LA with one of the most trailblazing voices in dance music, multi-platinum, multi-award-winning artist and songwriter, Vassy. From her beginnings in Darwin, where she was famously kicked out of her primary school choir for not having the right voice, Vassy's journey has taken her from jazz clubs in Sydney to topping global dance charts, clocking more than 3 billion career streams along the way. She's written and performed era-defining EDM anthems like Bad with David Guetta, which has now clocked over 2 billion streams, and Secrets with Tiësto, which went 10 times platinum and resulted in her touring the world's biggest festivals. In 2023, she became the first woman to win the prestigious EDM Icon Award, solidifying her place as a pioneer of the genre. But Vassy's story is so much more than that. She's a passionate advocate for songwriters' rights, especially around the challenges that have come with generative AI. And she's also an artist with deep jazz and acoustic roots, which we'll dive into as well. Here to take us back to 2014, where she wrote her breakout global hit Bad, and to a decade ago in 2015, when her song Secrets earned her number ones in over 30 countries and over 2 billion streams. This is Vassy, On The Record. All right, so we are here in LA, your new hometown, which it's been your hometown for a very long time.
It's been home for a while. Yeah.
How long?
Over 10 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
And we're going to dive into a song that you released 10 years ago later. But first, I want to go all the way back when you were in primary school going for the school choir and you got kicked out because apparently you didn't have the right voice. And this blows my mind because that voice now has over 3 billion streams to its tone. What the hell? And I was also thinking about how you were 7 years old at the time and it's such a formative year, like being 7. What did that do to you to be kicked out of the school choir at 7?
It was tough because you're young and you're vulnerable and it was humiliating because she did it in front of all the kids. Having said that, there was something about me as a kid that even in that moment, I knew that rejection was not because I wasn't good enough. I recognized within myself that it meant that I was different. And it did hurt, but I knew that it meant that I just was different. There was something different about me. And for whatever reason, I wasn't a follower, like I was a leader, in the making or whatever, but that's what it was. So it wasn't so much that I wasn't good enough. I just wasn't able to follow along like the rest of the kids and do what I was told. I was instinctively, as an artist, because I was syncopating the beats. I was doing my own thing and I wasn't able to stick to the rhythm that she wanted, which was so linear and boring. So even as a 7-year-old, I must have already, had these instincts for my own, way of delivering things. So that rejection fueled the rest of my life because it was simply a redirection for me. I didn't realize it at the time, but it has become the philosophy of my, success, utilizing the ammunition from that rejection and, of course, taking it as fuel to inspire me to prove this person wrong, that if you don't think someone's good enough. And, so it stuck around for a while.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, I love this. Do you know that can we reach out to that teacher and be like, in your face?
She got let go. And
Did she now?
Yes, the school, St. Mary's Catholic School, wrote a apology years later on behalf of that teacher. Because I don't
This
think
is amazing.
it is pretty amazing. Well, they did that when I was unearthed as well by Triple J, and I was getting
Yes.
play. And I think in that moment they realized, oh, I was all over TV and radio, and it was the girl that I kept bringing it up in my interviews because I was like, I'm just going to drop this in without revealing this person's name, but because it can really hurt a kid. And luckily for me, I had good self-esteem, even though I still didn't. But luckily, it didn't crush me. Whereas a lot of kids, if you do that to them, and young teens, it can literally crush them. Not just their dreams, but just their self-esteem as a person. So I think that teachers or people in positions of power or some sort of influence or role, playing a role model to the youth, to the kids, have to be very careful in how they deliver disappointment, I think.
So true. Yeah. It is such a crucial time for a child, and it's such a crucial role in this world that we live in as well. So, I mean, kudos to your parents, right? Because they instilled in you a self-belief that said, yes, it's a rejection, but it's because I'm different. I don't fit the mold here, and that's kind of a good thing. I'm unique. Like, that must have been instilled in you from mum and dad. Yeah,
I think so, without them even saying that, but only because, my parents migrated to Australia, and in their own way, they took the path that I took, and they didn't follow, everyone else in the village, and they took a risk and a leap of faith to go to the other side of the world and create a new life for themselves, not having the language under their belt, not having the money and all these things. And I think that entrepreneurial spirit, or that just believing in yourself. They obviously took a chance because they believed in themselves that they could go to somewhere and accomplish life. Theirs was about life. Mine was more about, well, actually, no, I didn't know at that age. But anyways, yes, I think that I get that from my parents, yeah.
Don't you find it interesting that you then moved all the way to LA on your own? And I know it's not there's no language barrier, obviously, but there's a massive barrier for an Aussie moving to LA, a girl from Darwin, making it in music, let alone EDM. As you say, right before we got on the chat, we talked about your number 9 ranking in the Rolling Stone EDM list, and which is huge, not just for artists in the electronic music scene, but also for women. So I find that so interesting. You went and ventured into new territory as well.
Yes. When I moved here, it was literally starting all over again, having had some success in Australia and, being on TV and radio and in the magazines, and then coming here, with this dream, because I felt that I wasn't able to accomplish the things that I wanted in Australia. I wasn't being seen at the time because I didn't fit what most Australians wanted. And there were a lot of limitations. So then I came to America. I always had this dream about moving to America ever since I discovered Billie Holiday and this whole other thing.
Yeah, wasn't there a song that you love of Billie Holiday's?
Yes, Autumn in New York.
Autumn in New York, and so you moved to New York.
Yeah, exactly. That. I moved to New York initially, yeah. But then I came and the reality hit, and then I was nobody again, and had to just do it all over again, but even harder and with no family. And oh my God, it was so hard. I don't even know how I did it when I think back, and all the stuff you go through as a young, naive Australian girl. And oh my God, navigating through that. And I'm just, if I could go back, would not in a million years do it again.
Oh, really?
No, I wouldn't.
But hold on. You just said that Australia had this box that you were taught that you needed to fit into as a female artist. So what would you do then?
I don't know. I would have figured something out because, and persevered maybe, because there were lonely years when I came. I had no one, I'm in the trailblazer pioneer thing in that. Yeah. I came at a time when there was just nothing, no even APRA, like no one. And so it was hard. And here I am today. You've got to have certain resilience, a certain, cadence about you to just, and I was so ambitious back then. I don't have that level of ambition anymore, but maybe because I've accomplished certain things and I can be a bit more relaxed. But back then it was just, the hustle. But yeah, you come here and now you're up against everyone and the big fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's even harder to be seen and then to break through and have some form of success, which you then have to take and pivot and capitalize off that and keep the wheel turning and keep going. And it's so hard, even for people from here that have families here, that have connections in the business and that, to come and literally have no one. So there was a lot of, being burnt, exploited in business and things like that. A lot of scenarios that were compromising and stuff. And eventually it just happened. I still, to this day, don't even know how I did it.
Who burnt you? Who exploited you?
Oh, lots of people.
Well, I would love to, and we don't have to name names. We probably shouldn't.
I have
legal
the list.
reasons.
Hang on.
I'll go the blacklist. But I'm
blacklist,
wondering if we can help artists and people learn, because
Yes.
what are the pitfalls that they should avoid? How were you exploited, and what advice would you give to avoid it?
Yeah, have a great lawyer, and even with lawyers, you'll get exploited. So it just takes a minute. I think educate yourself as much as possible, which you don't in the beginning, and you're always told, especially as a female and an artist, take that back seat, be an artist. And so then you're in the dark for a lot of the time, and you're trusting others. And the people that you're trusting aren't necessarily always making the best decisions, and some of them think they are and they're not. And so then there was also a scenario where when I first came here, I was actually starting to make money because I was getting a lot of TV Sync placements. And so, I had the Hilton Hotels campaign, and I had all these things. And so now there was money coming in, and I had certain people around me that were double dipping and doing things. And I didn't know all this stuff. I just didn't know. I was so naive, and I didn't have anyone I could trust. And it wasn't like I had a family in the business that I could call and say, is this right? Like, is this, why am I losing so much money? Like, what's going on here? And so there was exploitation from a lot of areas. And then, of course, as a woman, you're in situations too where there's a lot of people of power that say they can make you a star and help you. And then there's expectations that come with that.
What do you mean?
I think that, there's a lot of what happened to a lot of people in the business. I was really fortunate that I was able to recognize that and see through it and navigate through it very quickly. But of course, it shut off my opportunities. Which I was okay with, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you mean expectation as in Me Too movement expectation?
Yes, that kind of thing. Absolutely. When you're young.
Sexual-based favors to be super explicit.
And not even going there, because I was never in a position where I had to go there, but there was very, let me help you. And then it was, you getting those messages, what are you doing? Would you like to go to dinner? Like things that were not to do with business. Mm-hmm. And so then it became very clear that there was an agenda. And a lot of these things have come up as a woman. So every girl goes through this. I mean, nowadays it's a little, people are not taking the risk as much. But it's just most women have seen this and guys too, but predominantly women, yeah. So there was a lot of that. But in terms of my advice, really, especially I've mentored a lot of younger girls in the business who I've inspired, and they see me as a role model. I always just say, really just lawyer up, get a great lawyer. Don't sign anything in a rush. I know you really want to make it and stuff. But there are just some things to look out for. And regarding different situations, there's so many different deals. There's the publishing side, the label side, it's a lot.
You mentioned before about how in Australia you didn't really fit into the box that was there for Australian female artists. And I'm thinking about how, you were so known in Sydney's jazz scene at the start, playing the basement and amazing venues like that where you were discovered as well by your first manager, I think.
Correct. Yeah.
And then you said before that you're inspired by Billie Holiday, and then you enter the EDM world. And so I can imagine, genre-wise, perhaps you don't fit into that box. But what is the box that you're talking about within the Australian industry at that time? At
that time, I think that what happened with me is I had a really great team when I was signed to Universal, and everyone got let go. It was that transitioning time.
I remember the big exit. Yeah.
Warner's took over and I lost all my team. So I lost my champions, people that believed in me. And then it was really, the emphasis was about either like A-list American pop artists or just the what Australia, like the Delta Goodrums of Australia. Let's just say that, because that's, that's probably, and she's amazing, but it was really
commercial pop.
Commercial pop. That's probably a good, or indie pop.
Yeah,
but indie pop.
That's true. Missy Higgins.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Missy Higgins and a Delta.
Yep.
If you didn't fit in those lanes.
Gosh, that's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, and bless them. They're amazing incredible artists.
Yeah.
But I was like, I would have taken it any day. Make me look like a Missy or a Delta. I'm good. Blonde and beautiful. I'd take it. And so if you were a little exotic looking or just didn't even have that, say you had that sound, but you were exotic looking, it was really hard for Australia, for you to be it was just hard. And I was neither of the two. So I was like, oh God, now. But I had people that obviously believed in me and saw my vision, but now I've lost them. So I'm like, oh, how do I find these people again now? And so it was a bit frustrating. And so then I was just like, oh, all right, well, I'll go to America, So then I come to America and I'm like, okay, but now, like, this stuff's everywhere now. But it's just like, how do I now get people to see me? And so that took a few, you've got to just keep doing what you're doing. And then, of course, eventually when I had my I think I'd say the first thing that really broke for me was, I didn't know this until actually it was written in Rolling Stone. Well, I sort of knew it, but I'm the first Australian to get a number one on the Billboard dance club charts. I didn't know this.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so that...
And also makes sense given your career and your catalogue. Wow.
Well, that broke me into the dance space because I wasn't really a dance artist. But then from there, that was the beginning of my career in dance, because that happened. And then shortly right after that, my, David Guetta record happened.
Yeah.
And then that was, after that. And then, of course, literally exactly a year later, like even on the dot, I have a big record with Tiësto.
Can we dive into these two? Okay. It's just, a year later, and we're celebrating the 10-year anniversary of Secrets
for
with
both
Tiësto.
of them, actually.
For both
now.
of them?
Yeah.
Right, because I had 2014
just a year apart, because Bad
Yeah.
came out and then Secrets comes out a year later, yeah.
This is what blows my mind about you, Vassy, is that you are an EDM artist where if I'm scrolling through Spotify or Apple Music, you come up as the featuring artist on these songs by, Afrojack and David Guetta and things like that. But you created these songs. You wrote them. You recorded them. You are the mastermind behind these songs. I find that so rare. And am I right in thinking that is rare in electronic music?
Yes. Yes.
So, okay, well, let's try and learn through Bad. Okay. How did Bad come about? Tell me the whole story.
Well, Bad I had written for myself, for my artist project, and I was in the studio working on it with these producers who I had do the remix version of my song We Are Young that went number one on the Billboard Dance Club charts. And an A&R from Atlantic came in, Aton, who you met, came in to hear a record that they worked on for Flowrider. And they were messing around with my record when he walked in. And it's funny because he had left a date, which he ended up marrying, I think, that day. It was kind of funny.
Cute.
He just told us that recently because he's married now. And so he heard that and he was like, what's that? And the guys were like, oh, it's this artist we're working with. He's like, no, that's hot. I want that. And I thank him to this day, because if it wasn't for him, so the boys call me and, they're like, hey, are you cool with this, A&R wants to play up to Flowrider or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, but, yeah, I'm okay, whatever. So then I get a call and they're like, Flowrider loves it and he wants to keep you on it. Are you cool with it? And we're just going to change the production. And then I was like, okay, sure. And then I get a call again, same A&R. And he's like, actually, we're thinking about, how would you feel, Nicki Minaj, at the time they were looking for records for Nicki Minaj. And, but I wouldn't necessarily have been on it if it was for Nicki. And then I was like, I'm okay with that, I think. Yeah, I like Nicki. Let's do this.
I like Nicki Minaj.
Yeah, I could go for that. And then it just evolved pretty quickly. And then they were like, actually, scratch that. And then he just calls me one day and he's like, are you in LA? I said, yeah. And he goes, can you come by the studio? David Guetta wants to meet you. Just like that.
Suddenly gets into Guetta's hands. How?
There was no Well, because he was A&Ring and he still A&Rs Guetta's projects. So Guetta heard it, loved it. And so I meet Guetta and they had so the a cappella, the way everyone hears it, my voice, it's how we had it. So it's literally nothing got changed.
Amazing.
The only thing that ever changed was always just the production. But when I first heard it, I walk in the studio, it's David Guetta. I'm trying to be cool because David Guetta. And I'm just like, oh, hey. And I speak a little bit of French. So he was like, oh, Vassy, I really love this song. And and then he's like, oh, I think, it is a hit and let me play you something and you tell me. So he plays me like a version of it, which was different to how people have heard it. And this version was way more of a top 40 commercial dance record, and it had will.i.am from the Black Eyed Peas and Future, the rapper.
My God,
I know. So I'm sitting there trying not to lose my cool,
speaking French with David Guetta.
Well, and then he's like, what? And he's intense because he's a very intense guy, and he's playing and he's watching me. And I'm just like, trying to be cool, whatever. At the end of it, he's like, qu'est-ce que tu penses? And I was like, oh, no, mais c'est cool,
What's that mean?
Like, I said, oh, man, but that's cool,
okay.
Oh, mais c'est cool, And he's like, tu aimes, right? Tu aimes? Like, he was genuinely looking for my reaction. And I was just like, inside of me, I'm dying, going, are you fucking kidding me? I'm going to be rich, bitch. And then I walk out of that scenario and I call my sister because I was like, who do I call? How do I share this moment with anyone? So I call my sister in Darwin and I was like, sis, and she's like, I said, okay, you don't even know. I said, all I'm going to say is, bitch, I'm going to be rich, like this. And then she's like, what? And I was like, Dave, get her. And she's like, okay. Oh, great. I gotta go. Like, she's, I'm like, oh, she doesn't get it, So then in my mind, I'm secretly on the down low about this because I'm like, I'm about to blow up and make so much freaking money and will.i.am and Black Eyed Peas. And, my mind's like racing. And then David Guetta and I are in touch. And then, like a couple months later, like 2 months or 3 months before it comes out, he's like, oh, and I'm so excited. Then we're going to do. And he's like, so I did a few changes. And what do you think? He sends it to me. I'm like, a few changes? God damn. Different? Everything. Well, just except for me. My vocal was always the same. But I'm like, what are you talking about? Where's will.i.am?
Yeah, where's
Future? I was devastated. I couldn't say that to him. I was like, oh, cool.
But you can't be that devastated because it's David Guetta.
I didn't. No, but that was the beginning of that big EDM movement. So when he went, I was like, what is this? It was, and I was like, who's Showtek? I don't even know.
Yeah.
I didn't know EDM. So then he's like, oh, no, it will be cool, for the festival. Come, So then he puts it out and I'm like, I hated it at that point because I was like, where did that, and the EDM thing, I don't get this. And it comes out and it just explodes. Bit more than that everyone anticipated. And actually the label had put a radio budget behind the next record he had with Nicki Minaj. Because, she's also a priority artist. And they thought this was going to be just a cool, festival club record. And the record, literally surpassed their expectations and just was massive.
Oh my
and then,
God.
of course, that whole EDM thing just took over my life. Whether I wanted it or not.
Yeah, it really did.
It did.
You're labeled with it now. Like it's Vassy and EDM is until of course the release of your EP, which we'll get into later. But it completely changed your life and in a way branded you and tied you to a genre.
It did, yeah. Which I'm very grateful for because the EDM community extremely loyal. They're very loyal and loving, and they're intense. They love their EDM. And still to this day, which, I know we'll get into, but I might have another EDM moment left in me with someone. But anyways, they're always like, another. But that was an interesting time, though, for the EDM movement because we created that movement. My record Bad with Guetta, and then a year later, Secrets with Tiësto and Kashmir, it was again that same thing. And it was just really part of a movement. So then for those next few years, it was that sound and we caught the beginning of that wave. And you could say we created it only because, obviously they're the two is the most iconic DJs with such big platforms. So maybe there were other people doing that, but because of their, platforms, we really it was just out there. So it was insane. And I'll never forget the the very first moment, like when I performed Secrets with Tiësto and in Miami, and just how the crowd went, it was just like, wow. This song that I wrote, and I'm like, oh my God, look at all, everyone just knew every single word, and just, it was wild.
You said something before that I have to go back to. You said, maybe I've got another EDM moment in me. What are you talking about? Like, are you saying that, BossAcoustics and that EP is where you're going down and that you're leaving EDM? What's going on?
I don't want to say like I'm completely leaving EDM, but I am stepping back from EDM because just sonically it's not, I respect it and I do love it, but I just, as an artist, it's hard for me to express myself within the production style sound of EDM. And so now the records that I have coming out, like my new record, Hazy, that's coming out in a few weeks, and my record, Beg, that's out right now, Rascal, they're definitely more soulful house-driven records. And then my new record, Hazy, who's produced by Colin Emmanuel, this UK producer that's, worked with Estelle and Blue Cantrell and Miss Dynamite and De La Soul. Like the record, the sound is very, it's still electronic, but more in a sort of a jazzy house, like minimalistic house. Like it's just, there's elements of jazz. So I'm not leaving dance. I'm just wanting to make records that I resonate with more. Not to say I didn't resonate with those, but in all fairness, I kind of didn't in a way, because even though my voice was always there, the production just took its own, it's not like I had control over the production, Whereas now I have control over my production because I work with producers. I'm not telling them what to do, but I'm giving them a lot of direction, a lot of feedback, a lot of references, and we're involved in the process together, so that sonically I get a sound that I'm just excited about. It may not be ever as big as those records, which is fine. And of course, maybe if it was with Guetta, it might be. But just as an artist, for me, it's really like feeding my soul right now. And I need that time. I need some time to just feed my soul. It's very important. I may not make a lot of money from it like I did with these other things, but I just need it for me.
I actually think that you will make money from it because there's authenticity tied to it. And from even just being a music fan, if you can hear when that person's not authentically tied to it, when that person isn't excited or passionate about it. So if you're following your passions, you'll always be successful, I think.
Oh,
especially with music's so passion-led.
Yeah, I hope so. I think when you're really an artist, you've got to dive into your artistry, and you do have to. And I think that the whole EDM thing really for me took over. It's like it was just whoa. And I got a bit overwhelmed for a minute because I was getting hit up by every single DJ, and everyone was give me a bad. It was like give me a bad, and I was just like what am I? And then in this
wow.
Yeah, and then in this space, it's very hard because it's really, if I was a dance artist back in the day when it was Crystal Waters and Cece Peniston, and they were great prime years for dance artists because it was all about the artist. And then this whole shift, when a lot of promoters were, realizing they could make a lot of money having one person play everyone's songs, and everyone's cashing in on that and buying drinks and stuff. And now it's become a very lucrative, lifestyle business. The whole DJ space just took over, and it's just literally the dance space is about the DJs. It's been about the DJs for a long time. It still is, and about the male DJs predominantly, even though there's a lot of cool female DJs that are really killing it right now. But I felt like it was, people kept saying to me, like I wasn't even an artist at this point. It was just like, I'm the vocalist. Like, can you give me a vocal or top line? Like, it was like push a button and spit me a hit out.
That's not you.
No, it was like there's no soul in that, and I was just like I can't do this. And then of course it was always on a dun 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 dun, beat or something, and I was like
yeah,
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, what's so interesting about what you say about DJs is, and not that Tiësto is a DJ, he's so much more. But when you went on tour with him and did all of the huge global festivals with Secrets, that's the best part of the set. When Vassy comes out and performs the vocal, that's it. So
that's sweet.
To dive back into Secrets, because that's another song that you wrote. Tell me, I would love to know what inspired it lyrically, actually. It's a sexy song.
It is. That one was meant to be sexy.
It is.
And it is. It's just really about, can you keep a secret? Yeah. And if you can, I'll take you on a ride.
Yeah.
If you can keep that secret. And that's what it's all about. It's provocative, but it doesn't have to necessarily be it can be anything the listener wants it to be.
You know what I took from it? It's like when you really get to know someone and you feel close with them and there's that sexual energy and you're just like, I just want to tell you all my secrets.
Yes.
Like, I trust you and I feel so vulnerable, and you're like, get ready because they're coming.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. Yeah, I love hearing that. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of ways you could flip it. And that's why I try not to be too literal in my lyrics, because I want the song to be there for the listener, for the person experiencing it. I want them to take something out of it that helps them or inspires them or even just gives them a good time for that night. That's what I want for them, because that's what music does for me. Like, music I resonate with. That's what it does for me. It makes me feel good. Like, it charges me. It inspires me. It motivates me. It gets me through shitty times. Like, it makes me, if I'm feeling down about myself, I'll put something on that I like, and it'll just take me to that place, you know, emotionally. And so
resonated with a lot of people. What is it? #1 in 30 countries, 10 times platinum. Like, how did it become the beast that it is now? Take us all the way back into how it got into Tiësto's hands and the collaboration.
So I got in, so at the time, because Bad was so big, again, like I had so many people wanting to work with me. And I actually got in the studio with Kashmir and we worked on that. And I had this idea. And I remember we cut the vocals in his closet. Yeah, he was sitting it was in his bedroom. He had a house up in the hills, and it was like a cool house, roommates, whatever. And so he's sitting behind his desk and he's like, all right, I'll go and cut the vocals. And I'm in his walk-in closet and there's shoes in front of me. Like...
He's like, could you get in the booth? You mean your
like
closet,
all these cool kicks, and I'm sitting there in front of the mic looking at it, and I was like, you have a big collection of shoes here, Niles. Like, you know. And that's where I cut the vocals. People always think, oh, it's so sexy. I'm like, no, I literally was smelling his shoes.
They were nose level.
They're right there. So, but the acoustics in closets are great because of clothes. You know, you got clothes around like jackets and things, and it just absorbs all the. So you don't need a pop filter or anything. Anyway, so I remember that, and then it got into the hands of Tiësto, I think through like one of our publishers. That had nothing to do with me. Again, I didn't know, and it was the same thing. It was just like a phone call, and it was like, Tiësto wants this. And I was like, oh, does he now? I was like, well, Tiësto wants it. Tiësto can have it.
Great.
Because, you know, who doesn't love Tiësto?
Yeah.
So then that's that. And that one blew up even faster than Bad. But I think that was lucky because it already had Bad. And not to say, you know, like to go. Whereas Bad took a minute. I think I just didn't expect anything. So when Bad came out, I just kept going on with whatever in my life. Whereas when Secrets came out, within 48 hours, it hit #1 on Beatport. And then, which was the only other record that's beat that is Animals by Martin Garrix, I was told.
Get out.
Someone may have reached that benchmark now, I don't know, but at the time. And then only a couple of weeks after it already had come out, we started performing it. And everyone knew it. So I was like, damn, Tiësto's got... I mean, you know, it was at Ultra. And I was like, all right, this song's only been out for how many weeks? Like, what's going on? How does everyone know this? So that was crazy.
And that tour would have just been wild too.
Well, he was so generous. He invited me to go and perform the song with him. I did Ultra. I did Tomorrowland main stage with him. That was epic. Because and we were backstage and Guetta was there and everyone was backstage at that show. Armin van Buuren and Alesso and Martin Garrix I met everyone. And I was like, this is how these DJs do. And I was like, I should become a DJ. This
it's genius.
This is, you know, they just show up, they get out, they get paid. And but it was cool. But the crowd, I was just like, oh my God. The crowd at that festival was twice the population of my hometown, say, all of Darwin, say, times whatever, 4. I think it was like 400, all in one vicinity. You've never seen people like, this is insane.
You weren't nervous?
You can't feel anything when you're out there because there's so many people that you are nervous, but now you're like, there's not even one face I can focus on. So it actually works in your favor because sometimes when you can see people, you get more nervous. Whereas now I'm just seeing an ocean, a wave of like, you know, bodies.
Singing your lyrics.
Yeah. And it was very sensorial. Like you you really you're transcended to another place. You're not even in your body at that moment.
Wow.
And then, you do your thing. And I even climbed up on the DJ decks when we did, because we started singing another song of ours. And then after that, we get down the whole thing. And I walk in, I was like, how the hell did I do that? What if I fell? I was like, what was I thinking? Yeah, the adrenaline. And he saw me, got up, and he's like, all right, cool. Let's, we're like, And then after that, I was like, God, if I fell down, I would have died.
Oh my God. Now you can
crazy.
see why these rock stars do crazy things, like
Yes.
climbing.
Either they're high when they go on stage, which I wasn't, or they're just high on the music, and you don't know, you just get really in that moment. You're so excited.
So you go from that to then, we're really fast forwarding now. We're fast forwarding 10 years now, and you're going back to your roots. You're taking your fans on this brand new journey with you, with your BossAcoustics EP. And it's inspired by so many genres that for someone that has followed your career not so closely, a cursory fan, say, would be quite surprised at. Why now with your EP?
Because this is the style of music that actually inspired me to start singing in the first place. And I think that I need a chapter in my career to go back to the music that inspired me to start singing. And I need that. Because I was going through a period there where it was always about, records doing well at radio and what's this and what's that. And I just couldn't take it anymore. I just thought, I'm done. I'm done. I don't want that pressure, because it's getting really, really hard. People don't realize it's not just about having a good record. There's so much politics behind it. There's so many things, and people just don't know. And so if you don't have that machine, because if you think about it, there's some pretty shitty records that get released by big, profiled names. And a lot of the records, sometimes they're like, oh, that's not even that good. But there's a lot of other things that happen behind that, money being put behind. There's just,
the big machine.
The big machine,
I had someone explain this to me once. When the industry decides to hit that big red button and they come together collectively,
yes,
it skyrockets you globally. And it's just because that they have chosen you and they've said yes. Obviously, there's so many wonderful, talented artists, and I'm not saying that the artists that they do hit the big green button on aren't talented. But when you have the industry come together like that, there's no stopping it.
It's only a handful, and that's the thing. And nowadays, it's shifted a lot too, in terms of how things are working at digital music platforms, and how a lot of the majors are controlling a lot of stuff. There's a lot has changed. But I think for me, really, it's just that I just want to make music that I genuinely am passionate about, because I was losing that spark, and now I've got it back again. So all these records I'm working on, it's not about quantity anymore. For me, it's just about the quality. So even if I just put a handful of things out that I'm proud of, I need that for myself as an artist, because one day I'll die, and I want people to look back and say, oh, I don't want to just be known for the EDM stuff, even though I know there's so many fans that still want that. And I'm going to give them a little something, which I think they're going to be very happy about when I drop this one thing.
Is it hazy?
No, hazy's not EDM.
Yeah, you were saying it's more.
There's something else in the works that will just, please my EDM fans. That's all I'll say. And I think you're going to be very happy with this when it comes out. I mean, it's a little hard for my liking on the production side. It's EDM, very EDM. But it's just something that this one's going to be for the fans. I'm going to, okay, I heard you guys loud and clear, every day in the DMs, year after year, I was like, all right, here you go.
Hey, but BossAcoustics was also a response to fans too. You had a lot of fans coming to you saying, I just want to hear your version.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I have a lot of people that genuinely love my acoustics, and they want that. They want more of that, and it's cool. So I'm gaining new fans because of that, and it's okay because it's okay to change things up. You need those chapters. You've got chapters in your life. There's always different chapters in a book. It's never the same thing, and it's okay to do something different. You're an artist. you're not going to do the same thing all the time. It's okay to change. It's okay to change even as a human being. You can change your mind as much as you want. If next week you wake up and you're like, I'm gonna whatever, go for it. Live your best life. Like,
that's the human experience for sure. And no one can be upset with someone if they change their mind on something or want something different. This is a huge thing that I've learned in my personal life. It's like everyone is entitled to want something different.
That's right.
And it's okay.
I mean, people are changing their mind about their everything, sexualities, genders, you name it.
Yeah.
Someone wants to be called a they today. That's their right if they feel that way. And so it's like, well, why shouldn't artists be allowed to change up, music, the sound of music?
It's because I'll tell you from a fan experience. It's because we hold their music so closely to us becoming who we are. They soundtracked that part of our life. They that was the song that we had our first kiss to, or that was the song where I went on to that concert with my girlfriends, and it is so a part of the patchwork of our existence that when they completely change and go the other way, you're like, but you've been on this journey with me for my whole life, and now you're on a different path. And what are we now?
Oh, that's interesting.
What is my relationship with you now? But a music fan who understands the artist, not just the music, wants that artist to grow and develop and change.
Well, I think that's the thing. You grow and develop. And I'm in a different place in my life as a woman, and I'm not that young girl anymore. Like, I'm actually a woman now, So, and I think also, to be completely honest with you, I was really scared to show that side, or nervous, or I just didn't think people would think it would be cool. I just felt like this pressure, like you have to, be the cool kid that does this, or there's so much of that happens. And I just think I'm at a place in my life, not just with music, like just with everything, but especially because I'm so, my career is like everything, but I just don't care anymore.
Amazing.
And I'm like, I'm just not going to be afraid to do what authentically feels right. And if you don't think it's cool enough, or you don't think it's, trendy enough, or following this, or hard enough, or idiot, that's okay. That's cool. That's your opinion. And ironically, what's actually happened is that, like, I actually had a call yesterday with a program director about a record that is at radio, and he's like, you know what, I love all your records. I add every single one. He goes, I'm just not feeling this one. And I was like, damn, really? I go, shit, I thought you really would have liked that one. And then I said, look, can I just get some feedback on? And I sent him this other song that I've got coming out, which I did not think in a million years he'd like. And he's like, I would add and play this one. Like that. And I was like, what? I said, you're kidding me.
What's the difference?
Very different.
The sonically, they're very different.
Yeah, very. But I was just like, are you sure? And it just gave me that little bit of, not ego boost that I needed, but I was like, oh, it's okay to do different, to do what I'm doing. I was just a bit nervous that people were not going to vibe with it. And I'm just like, okay, cool. Yeah.
Because authenticity resonates.
Yeah, and you're gonna attract new fans through it, and it's okay that if your existing fans maybe check out for a minute, they might check back in, or they may just respect it and not necessarily listen to it. But I think it's okay, and I think it's good, and it's very important too, because as a role model, particularly because a lot of younger artists look up to me, and especially women, I want to show other girls that it's very important in this genre, in the dance space. It's so often that the singers, the artists, the vocalists are overlooked. They're not seen, they're not heard, they're pushed to the side. It's always about the DJs, and it's very important to be true to yourself and say no to the things that don't feel authentically right. And eventually it will all pay off. Because I had Steve Aoki tell me this backstage one day. I wish I could take what he said and frame it, because it was so beautiful. But just the way he said it, he was basically like, you're one of the rare artists that literally in the dance space that's held her own ground. Like, I respect DJing. I love it, but it's just not for me. Like, I tried to pick it up. Most people have to do that now to have a successful career. If I was DJing, I definitely would get booked more and make more money on the touring front. That's for sure. But it's just not authentically me. So I'd be forcing it. I'd just be doing it to stay relevant and get gigs. But it's not really me. Like, I'm the old school. Like, if I could live during the Billie, holiday eras, like, I'd be one of those chicks.
Yeah.
Because my instrument is my voice. And that's how I evoke feeling and emotion. And that obviously isn't as prevalent in dance. There's so much production happening around a voice. So this is why I genuinely enjoy stripping back. It's one of my traditions to always release an acoustic version of all my dance hits and stuff, because I want people to understand that this song actually came from a very simple song just with the guitar, and then it turned into this monstrous, electronic hit, whatever you want, with the production. And there's still a voice there. There's still this, and because without that voice and that hook, you're connecting with people. So the instrument, being my voice is the thing that also resonates. And so, anyways.
You'd be even more of a weapon if you were back then in Billie Holiday times, because you write your own music.
Oh, yeah.
And back then they had all these teams around it. I want to touch on something you said earlier. You said, you're a role model to a lot of women and to a lot of artists, but also to songwriters. And I'm thinking about generative AI and how it is really one of the biggest challenges to artists right now. I saw a stat. I'm going to read it to you.
Oh, my gosh. Yes.
That APRA AMCOS released this report, and they said that the revenue losses related to generative AI are projected to hit $500 million by 2028. So I don't know, this is a big question, but how can we protect creators?
It's so bad right now. I'm so glad that APRA did that. And as an APRA ambassador, we are so lucky to have people like APRA, because there's so much work that goes into protecting our rights as songwriters. These days, as a songwriter, it's so hard to make money. It's so hard. Do you know that Spotify have some blanket thing that I think it's up to, if you only have like a couple thousand streams, by law, they're not obligated to pay anyone.
That's right. They brought that in, I think, last year, perhaps.
Correct, which is such BS, because it's like you're generating money from that. Why shouldn't you pay that out? And
I think for them, it's like the admin fees just don't warrant the effort, which is so disappointing to emerging songwriters.
Well, I mean, Spotify pays so crappy anyways.
Yeah.
You literally have to have, now that I've had records that, I mean, obviously Bad's had, 3 going over 2 billion streams now, like over 1 billion on just YouTube. But when you start making money like that and you see the royalty statements, it's only in that moment that you realize how many streams you have to really make to make money. And I, still count my blessings to this day, because those records made me a decent amount where I was able to do something with that money, whether it's, you want to buy something. Like, it's so hard to make that kind of money now. Like, you have to have hundreds of millions of streams, and you know how hard it is to have hundreds of millions of streams? Like, it is so hard. It's so hard.
It would be a hit at that point, and it's so hard.
It would be a hit. And even then, the kind of money that you'd see, and once it's broken down and trickled down, like from the label, and they take this and this and that, and you never really know if you're getting paid what you should be unless you do an audit, which is extremely expensive. So the only time you would do that is if you're making millions. It makes no sense, but it's very hard. Now the AI thing has totally changed the game. Totally. So now I'm getting like, people are hitting me up. There's like the new thing now where they're like, oh man, you would sound so good on this record. So they send me the record, and then they use Splice and all this stuff. And they basically like already have someone singing on it. And they're like, this is the vibe. And then, and there's like someone singing, there's almost lyrics. It's like it's AI generated, but they want you to, and I'm just like, okay, so I'm confused. You got something already, it seems.
You need me because.
Yeah, so then you'll go and do something, but because they're A&R, whatever, and have now heard it, they're so used to it with that. And I've checked out now. Like, if someone does that to me, I was like, nope, not touching it. And they're like, oh, sorry. I was like, no, sorry, I can't now, because I've heard, like, I'm not doing it. And it's just like, what is happening here? Someone actually, I'm not going to say who, admitted to me, because they've also reached a point where they're like fed up, and they're tapping into the AI thing where they're now generating records. They don't even need a singer. They don't need that. And they just, I don't know how he's doing it. He explained it to me. I was like, what? And he's like, I'm telling you, babe. And he's like, and I'm just putting them out and I'm making money. And I was like, what? Wow. This is insane.
Wow. I was talking to the songwriter Shelley Piken yesterday. She wrote What a Girl Wants for Christina Aguilera. Yes. She wrote Bitch for Meredith Brooks. Has worked with Britney and a whole bunch of Incredible artist. And she was like, they should, in the same way that you say explicit on a song that has curse words in it, you should say AI generated on the song. Like
Correct.
it should be a notification.
Yes, and I think that's what APRA's advocating for, and
Cool.
they're rallying up all the governing bodies to come to that conclusion and pass some sort of bill that puts that into place. And I think that's what needs to happen. So anytime you hear a song, it needs to be fully transparent that this is the AI generated, and there is definitely a way to do that. And I'm hoping that they continue the pressure, and they'll eventually get to that where we can pass that through, because it's crushing. It's crushing. There's people that just rely on songwriting because it's so hard to be an artist in the business. So not everyone gets that opportunity, even though deep down they'd love to be, and they can sing and they're talented. But there's just so many things that have to happen for you to have a successful artistic career. So a lot of people just fall back on songwriting, and then they rely on songwriting for other people, and that's the only way they can generate their revenue. And unless they get a good publishing deal and they get a bit of upfront cash, but it's just really, really hard now. So it's kind of scary, to be honest. Really, really scary.
Did you think, looking back, that you would end up being really tied to advocacy and songwriter rights? When you thought of coming up in Darwin, obviously slightly after you got your degree in architecture, first class honours, I remember. Amazing, by the way. We didn't get to touch on that.
Oh my gosh.
But just wild. Like, when you decided to choose music and you thought, this is what I want to do with my life, did you think that you would end up in the advocacy route? Is that just part of you as a person, and is it family values that are coming out? What's going on?
I've always been that soldier girl that rallies and is the trooper and fights for the vulnerable, the people that are vulnerable, essentially. And I've got a brother with special needs, so I always had to, even though I'm the baby in the family, I always had to protect him. And people can be real idiots and tease people unnecessarily for nothing. It's interesting now. Today's generation is so different. They're like so in touch with their emotions, which is really cool. Like my niece and nephew, they're teens, and it's so different to how it was back in the day. But and so I was always that kid in high school. Like if there was ever a kid that got teased because he was a bit feminine, and the guys be like, oh, you're gay or whatever, I would protect that kid. If there was a girl that was a little, quirky and she got teased, because I would protect that girl.
Aww.
So I always did that because I was one of the kids that was like, you can't mess with me. Like, you want to say something, come say it to my face. So I was never scared.
It. Yeah.
And I still have that to this day. But the thing is that advocacy's naturally come my way. And so when I was a governor on one of the chapters, Recording Academy chapters, I actually joined the advocacy committee and went to Capitol Hill 2 times in a year to advocate for our rights. Because I didn't know this, but Australia doesn't have this. We actually have some great laws. In Australia really, by far, compared to America, really protects their songwriters and artists from songwriting and, neighboring rights, PPCA, APRA. But in America, so let's just take, for example, Respect, right? Aretha Franklin. Now, she didn't write that song, okay, but she made that song. It's Aretha Franklin.
Yeah.
Now, that song's been played over 1 trillion times across terrestrial radio in America. We're not talking about digital satellite station radios now like Sirius XM. We're just talking about radio. And in America, in each category of music, there's literally hundreds of stations, okay? So 2 things here real quick. Like when you're trying to break a record at pop radio in the US, it is so hard, and there's still to this day, this whole, it's like hush hush, but pay for play, pay for play. Oh, lots.
Yeah, okay.
And particularly in the pop, and that's why you need big budgets to break pop records. So these big records that everyone hears and think, oh my God, trust me, not oh my God. Yes, oh my God, great. And these artists, they didn't just blow up overnight. They've been at it for years. Yes, artists like the Taylor Swifts and the Billie Eilish, they started a long time ago, so they have been putting in the work. And they've been at it for over a decade and a bit and going on 2, but they started young, right? So but that's a whole other conversation. The bottom line is that song has been played over 1 trillion times, and Aretha Franklin doesn't make 1 cent from it because in America, they don't pay. They don't pay every time a song gets played at radio. In Australia, if my song gets played and I say I didn't write it, I'm still going to make royalties from that song as an artist. PPCA will collect those royalties on my behalf, and AMCOS does some stuff too. But APRA will go collect my royalties as a writer. So they're going to make sure that I'm, and then PPCA will make sure they do that part as an artist, as the performance side. There's like the writing side and the performance side. In America, they do not do that. The only place you can make radio here in America as an artist is only on satellite stations like SiriusXM or say iHeart Digital Radio. We're talking like 2% of nothing.
So why does the payola happen? If you're not getting paid for it, why are people paying for the plays?
In America is the most capitalistic country in the world, as we all know. Everything is about money here. This is a very common thread. It's interlaced with everything, health insurance, like literally everything. Tipping. It's just like the way it was set up. Even like gun right laws, like if we go back to where it really started, it was really about providing a law for farmers to protect their land at a time when, there was battlefields going on and all sorts of things. So they had to do something to protect themselves. So they had that right. But it was written like centuries ago and they just don't want to change it and amend it. They have done a little something, but honestly, they have a long way to go. There's still, battlefield weapons that everyone can purchase. No one should be allowed to purchase a weapon that's designed for battlefields to shoot over 30 people in a second. Like no one needs that.
If I don't laugh, I'll cry, honestly.
Yeah. Like, okay, a rifle, I get it. All right, everyone, but like really something that can literally kill and slaughter people within seconds, you don't need that unless you're going to fight in Iraq for a war. Sure, then the military can have access to that. But why do everyday people need access to that? That's so weird to me. Anyway, that's like a whole other thing, but it's baffling to me. So when I went to advocate, I'm sitting here in the Capitol Hill, and this was a time when Obama was in. So we just saw Obama. Like I literally saw Obama's like head in one of the hallways, and that's all. And we were like, "Hey, Obama!" We were allowed to yell, and he like waved back, and that's as close as I got to him. But we were sitting in the rooms with the congressmen and senators, and we had to explain to them. So I was just breaking it down, and I was just telling a congressman, I said, "Listen, senator, congressman," I said, "I came to this country, I work really hard, blah 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 blah," and I go, and every time my song gets played, I go, I don't get paid. I don't even get a cent. I go, is that fair? Anyways, I was just explaining it to him. Yeah.
And how did he take it? Did he understand?
They didn't even know. That's what I'm saying.
No idea.
And I had numbers at the time, which I forgot now, like stats, where it was like, X amount, millions, whatever. And like, where is all that money going? If we would have, I don't have it in front of me to like say it now in a way that actually is accurate. But he didn't know. They don't know because they're not in the business. They have no idea. So you have to put it on their radar. And he's like, so what y'all are telling me is if you play a song, and he was trying to break it down, like he was, I don't know, from Texas or something. I don't know. He had that accent, like Hugh, what's his name? The cute guy, the guy that always has the Southern accent. I forget his name.
Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey, like he was like that, but older. And so he finally was like, "You're right, you should get paid." He's like, "Wow, I didn't know they did that." And I was like, "Yes." And so, but so here we are still fighting every day. It's a fight because the problem again. This is just, again, such a big conversation. There's what's called lobbying here in America, which we don't have really in Australia. And the lobbying really controls government in so many ways because it's where it's the money. And every person in power in this country is funded by money. So any president that gets that role didn't get there without funding. And so it's all about money. And so Big Pharma, all these companies, like they've got the money, the kind of money that you really need to spend. And
songwriters
the majors,
don't have how can songwriters compete with Big Pharma in terms of funding these lobbyists?
And it's the same with the major labels and the big radio stations. It's all lobbying. And so because they're going to miss out on a lot of money if they need to start paying us, like a lot. So they don't want that to change. They want to keep things how it's been for literally centuries. And so that's what we've been fighting for and fighting and fighting and fighting. And it's always a new fight. Something else comes up and now it's AI and it's just, I don't know how they do it. Like after a while, you just got to check out because, you know, it's very exhausting. And when you really think about like all the money that you could have made, when I think about the airplay that I've had, and I will say compare it to the royalties I've generated, PPCA for the kind of airplay I had in Australia that wasn't even on like commercial radio. We're not talking like, you know, it's getting played on the commercial. And I'm like, wow, okay, I made several thousands of dollars here for that. And in America, it's like you're lucky if you see $10 for that.
Mm.
So they just get away with it. It's very, very sad.
When you lay it out like that and you look at your career, it's actually phenomenal what you've achieved. Like it actually blows my mind. And of course, the songwriting is amazing. The music is amazing. The talent is just like exuding from you. You're radiating talent. But also what you've achieved is just nothing short of incredible. So you're amazing. And thank you for flying the flag for Australia here in America and all over the world. And I just feel very lucky to have had this chat with you, Vassy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you for the beautiful, kind words. I really appreciate it.
Oh.